Borgna and Stacey Caldwell.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
A lot of excitement. It's going to be a hard act to follow. Lauren, Caroline, here we go.
Hi, good morning. I'll just wait 2 minutes. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacey Caldwell. This is Michelle Stein. Michelle Stein, I have to give a little bit of background because for those of us that work in the industry, Michelle's a legend. Many executives. Donata, who is just on stage, who is the former CEO of Ula Johnson, the president of Veronica Beard, Stephanie Thompson. So many leaders in our industry have worked for you, and Michelle spent, don't cry, Michelle spent 30 years leading the IFA group, and IFA is a fashion house which has brands including Moschino, Jean Paul Gaultier, Alberta Ferretti, and for 30 years, Michelle ran the office over communications and commerce. 40 years? 40 years.
My
I
bio,
read
because
your
I didn't
bio.
want anybody to think I was that old. Because 40 years is the longest tenure, I think, in the history of the
So
industry.
she ran communications and commerce for all of those brands for 4 decades. Michelle was my first boss. When I came to New York, I interviewed at Chanel and I interviewed at IFA. I was 21 years old, and Michelle gave me her card when I came through the showroom one day, and she said, "Please call me if you want to work in fashion." So
You were there with TCU
Yeah.
on a tour, I think.
Yep. I was on an internship, a buying trip, and she changed my life. And the reason that I ended up working there, just to give the contrast, was when I asked, did they hire interns? Michelle said yes, and the other companies said no. So I'm really thankful, and she shaped so many careers, and everyone who's here today should really seek out her advice if you have any time in person. We're here today to talk about challenges and opportunities in this very strange global market. I think we're in unprecedented times. There's so much opportunity, but it's a very challenging period. There have been a lot of mergers and acquisitions. My Teresa acquiring Yoox Net-a-Porter, Amazon investing in Saks. You have been through, so many highs and lows of the fashion industry. How do you see the industry as a global whole in this moment?
Well, I don't want to repeat. I just came in for the last 10 minutes of the last conversation, but I think you have to find opportunities even in the most difficult environment. And I see only opportunities in the current environment, particularly in the specialty store sector, which is really going back to the core of that client kind of communication that we're looking for. I have always had a great deal of admiration for the specialty retailers. And I would imagine now it's a wait to see kind of environment that with the consolidations of Saks and Neiman's, if in fact the FTC does improve it, there will be opportunities there. The opportunities kind of go back to the core, once again, of the product and the offering and the knowledge. As the ladies that were here earlier said, you need to understand and have a strategy, goals and objectives, and make sure that you have all your ducks in a row to meet the opportunities that will arise. We've seen, I don't want to talk for 45 minutes on the first question, but we've seen a downturn with the global brands, with the global major department store players, with the e-commerce platforms, and a return, I think, to the product and the knowledge of the product and working with people who can really communicate the story of the product. I left my company after 40 years, and I did a lot of soul searching, and I asked myself, what is it that I really loved about this industry after dealing with a lot of ups and downs and good sell-throughs, bad sell-throughs, good launches, bad launches. And I realized that what I really loved was the craft of creating beautiful things and telling that story to the client. So I think I got off subject there, as per usual.
No.
So I think going back to knowing what you're good at, doing what you're good at, setting your objectives and your goals and telling that story. If you're a designer, if you're a brand, there are opportunities in this particular climate, I think.
So most attendees here have businesses based in Latin America, and they have expanded or they're looking to expand. New York is ever changing. Where do you feel these businesses should be?
Well,
to begin this
I'm
process?
counseling a couple of people who have been involved with this organization in the past. And, I counseled them. I think that with the post-inflation economy that we're going to see happening, let's just say post-inflation, because we've been dealing with an inflationary moment, I do think that Europe and Western Europe is the place to start. I mean, I think that if you're a brand, you can't set your sights solely on North America or South America. I think you have to have a more international optic. And I think that if you are ready to speak to what they were saying here before with the product, with the pricing, with your delivery cadence, with your manufacturing, I think Paris is the place to go. I would totally jump past New York. I hate to say that, God. I hope nobody from the CFDA is here. I do think that you have more opportunities in the global environment than you have with a sole focus on one particular constituency or trading area. Absolutely.
You have always been a big proponent for finding ideal partners and regional partners. Can you speak during a global expansion or just starting those conversations how important it is to have regional partners?
Yeah. Well, I think that you're fooling yourself if you think, first of all, you can do anything alone. So the group and the community that you create regionally, whether it be in North America, South America, or in Europe, is going to mean so much in your success. I have always worked with partners in every regional area: France, Spain, Germany, Benelux. In the US, I mean, obviously, we're dealing with North America, but it's important to have regional support. I'm not an expert on South American distribution because it wasn't really a focus, although I do hope that it will become a focus in the future for brands. But I think that you can't just plop yourself down and believe that people will come to you if you decide to show in Paris, if you decide to show in a group showroom or alone in your own showroom. You're going to want to have a community that is supporting you, and you're going to want to listen to them in terms of evolution of your brand for distribution. And certainly, you need support in Asia, you need support in the Middle East, depending on the type of product that you are producing and what your focus is, whether it's accessories, jewelry, ready to wear, whether it's evening, day wear. Your strategy will need to be developed around that with the support of communities in your target markets, absolutely.
Do you have any advice when it comes to preparing your product, your collection, your pricing, the structure for something that is no longer a regional market, but is a global opportunity?
Well, I think that what I've noticed yesterday, I did a quick run through yesterday, and I think that, we've seen, I think, one of the motivations for a lot of the downturns has been this strive and search for value on the part of the consumers. They are looking for a product that resonates with them, but also provides not only the price-quality ratio, but quality in the grand landscape. So if you think that you can compete with the major European brands in terms of price, you are absolutely wrong to start out with that from that viewpoint. I think that that's a challenge here, and it's not easy to launch a brand. It's not easy to even sell a well-known brand. There's an avalanche of product out there, and it's so overwhelming for the consumer. I think that's one of the reasons that they're returning to a more intimate, curated specialty store environment, because they want someone to help them. And I think that you have to define your product, what it means in the landscape of things, as Laura and Carolyn and Donato were saying. And you have to make very hard decisions in terms of what you're going to mean. What were we talking about? What was I think I've gotten off subject here.
Keep going. Just keep going. Don't worry.
I've started like ruminating on all of these things. But I think that, the price is absolutely the first, and the quality, of course, and the core of the DNA of the product are just the first stepping stones to creating success. And having people who counsel you, who tell you the difficult truth and the difficult points and say, you can't go in this direction, you can't do this. There's too many people doing it. And basically trying to find your own voice and not aspiring to be what you see out there and what you see as success. I mean, that is really difficult, and you do that through your community. Building community is number one as well, I think. Okay.
With your experience, you've had the opportunity, I know recently you served as a buying office to help a new store in Toronto acquire very challenging brands, including Dries Van Noten, Totem, Kate. You've been through all the showrooms in Europe in the last year. What really stood out to you as an advantage? And seeing these brands here, although it was brief yesterday, what mistakes do you see people making that are very evident to you but might not be as clear to emerging talent?
Well, there's always too much, and it's very hard to see through what people are showing to see what they really mean. What does this brand mean in terms of what's the product that really shines from this offering? I think that editing and focus is absolutely number one, and certainly how you care for and display the product and any auxiliary materials and all of your merchandising and marketing assets are very important. I mean, I think you have to try to be as good as possible when you're doing that. I mean, it's very hard because yesterday when I walked through very quickly the pop-up, there's a lot to see. I need to go back today. I probably should have done a little bit of a deeper dive, but I think that it has to become very clear to the buyer immediately what you stand for and what you do. I mean, immediately. You have to. There were a couple of brands that I saw yesterday. I was like, wow, they're really good at that, and that's the direction they need to go. So, taking and securing counsel from people not like me or Stacey or other people who have been out there in the industry and seen a million showrooms and can kind of like dive through everything and be able to help you to focus on all aspects, whether it's price structure, classification build out, delivery cadence, what your marketing looks like and how you're going about it. I mean, I think having a very clear idea, knowing, as Laura said, the landscape of what's out there, the competition, and trying to find your own voice and a very strong one at that if you can.
We are in a very saturated time in terms of product, in terms of communication. Everyone here, I assume, is very savvy when it comes to their Instagram, their website. Like, we have made great strides, I'd say, in the last 5 years. How can a business stand out in a global market where the groups are dominating? And we have, big caring,
well,
big
if you're not
LVMH
using
money
AI, you have to use AI, number one. I mean, that is absolutely, make sure that you know and are using the tools that are offered to you in creating your brand image and your structure and all of that. I mean, I think that's absolutely important. I think getting through to buyers is really difficult. I mean, that's at the core. I know because I did that for 40 years. And I often recount the story of, in the beginning of my career, I called the same person every day for a year. Tenacity. Yeah. Tenacity. I mean, you have got to find a way. Kathy probably remembers there are a couple of people in this audience that worked for me At one point, somebody just wouldn't return my call. They wouldn't return my call for, 5 months. I sent them a chocolate telephone. I said, okay, well, can you call me back? I think that I used to tell my team, because everybody was always like emailing. The telephone is still an instrument that we use. We need to take advantage of it. And there's one thing, that you show up. Show up at the store, walk in, ask for the individual, get in front of their face, and then be prepared to tell your story. Be ready to tell your story in a compelling manner where people are just going to respond to you. Like they said, an image in the body of the email. I only got the last 10 minutes, but these people are bombarded with thousands and thousands and thousands of emails. The other opportunity, of course, is to avail yourself of the selling professionals that are out there, the showrooms, the agents, but who have an inside track to the buyers. But you have to break through all the noise. And I was going to say another word that was not PG, but and find a way. And telling your story through your imagery and through keep it brief, keep it to the point in the same way that you develop your collections based on the strengths in a very well-edited manner. I just would send people on the road. I was thinking about the other day, I was thinking that when I started my career, I got on the bus with collections and went from city to city. This is the old days. I sound like a grandma, but nobody does that anymore. But if you believe and you are absolutely dedicated, you will break through. You will. May have to go the extra mile, but you will break through.
I think we're all very guarded by our screens, and we're all a bit disconnected right now. Yeah. And that takes me to the topic of online versus physical retail and the need to connect with products in person and not just live behind a screen and meet people.
Store traffic is back to pre-pandemic stages now, particularly specialty store traffic, more so than the majors. And I can't, we have a lot of e-commerce retailers here. I am definitely defined as more old school because I lived in the pre-internet, pre-cell phone era, and I had 10 or 15 years of my career before you had the opportunity to reach out to the world, But I do believe that you can begin a viral movement through one store or one site if you absolutely partner with the right people. And I love specialty stores. I hate to say that, but it's just, to me, I love when I go into a specialty store, and believe me, there are not a lot of them, where you have a sense of discovery and where it's not reliant on brands but on curation. And the sales team and the associates are very well trained and educated and can engage and tell the story. That's just everything to me. And there are some of them, and I have helped a couple to start recently that have so much passion in what they do. You do have the exceptions. There are people in the room that are so good at what they do and dig below the surface, who are in the e-commerce and more of the masstige world. And that really will separate now going forward those major department stores and those very large e-commerce platforms that will survive, which is going above and beyond and really bringing to the consumer just an exciting, thrilling mix and telling the story through content and all of the rest. But I happen to just love walking into a more intimate environment where there's a there, as Gertrude Stein said, and you can understand and learn so much from the experience.
You are one of the most traveled women I've ever met. You speak, 4 or 5 languages. You love Latin America. You've really, I think, seen more countries than I would say most people in this room. What do you think stands out about Latin American fashion that gives it an advantage in this global sector?
Well, I actually am just beginning to learn about Latin American fashion, so I don't know whether I can answer that as well as I would like. I do believe that there's an opportunity for that price-quality ratio that I was speaking to earlier. A couple of the designers that I've seen seem to have really beautiful production facilities and are able to produce wonderful product at an interesting price point. I think that the whole continent is begging to be discovered. I actually tried to develop the market for my brands, and with limited success, with the exception of Mexico, and was able to develop a very substantial business with Mexico because for whatever reason. But I think I'm excited about the designers that I'm seeing and the opportunities that there are in this post-pandemic, post-inflationary economy now. I think that there's a lot of opportunity. I don't know that much about what's coming out of Latin America, unfortunately. I probably should have studied that. I'm doing this cold because I don't like to prepare too much. I like to kind of speak a little bit off the cuff. I don't remember seeing that question.
It was a wild card.
Sorry.
I know many designers come here looking to find retail partnerships, and they're really trying to find that, key partner that can help them with marketing and communication and might take a message that they have within their own community to a global scale. There is some risk involved right now just with retail instability, but we understand the importance of those key believers in what you really do. Do you have any advice for brands who are starting these retail partnerships, really trying to understand who they should work with, how they can work together, and how they can protect their businesses as they grow in a healthy way?
Well, just understand that everything doesn't happen in a day, and don't be too greedy for minimums and orders, and ship very well. I think that one of the advantages, obviously, that the e-commerce platforms have is that they're able to support more people and to really focus, for example, on the South American designers and represent them in a better way, because you go into a specialty retailer and maybe they carry 25 or 30 brands. So you may have to really stand out from the crowd a little bit more to gain entry into some of the specialty stores. But I think that you just have to make sure that you're really ready and that you're going to be delivering perfect quality. Everything is so important. The finishing, the way you deliver, telling the story with your deliveries as complete as possible. And having all of your ducks in a row in terms of parallel marketing initiatives, along with the launching on e-commerce, for example, your all of your social media channels and local activations, and then activations. I mean, I think road shows are some of the best things that people do. Go out on the road, take their product, pop in to those important cities, and there's recently been a focus in the US on those second-tier markets. And the major stores are going to the clients in Nashville, Columbia, Charlotte, all of those markets that are not the New York, LA, Chicago markets, because getting to, I think if you can partner with clients that are in those areas and get down to those areas and start to put building block upon building block in developing your customer base, that's the absolute. So don't discount, I don't mean discount in the classic term, but don't kind of put aside the smaller specialty store retailers in the secondary cities, because kind of building that constituency in a very organic, from the ground up, is amazing. Many of the specialty retailers, and I think to a certain extent the major department stores, are relying on a certain cadre of clients. with the specialties, I mean, obviously a lot of them are relying on the the very affluent customer base who are out there spending money even in difficult times. But many stores have 20 or 30 clients, and that's what really keeps them going, those 20 or 30 people. So if you're bopping around and making important kind of developing rapport with store owners and those 20 or 30 VIC clients, that's amazing. I mean, I was working primarily on VIC programs, my focus the last couple of years that I was with the company, because I absolutely realized that those high, very affluent, high-earning clients were the clients that were shopping. This is post-pandemic, so now we're going into a new moment, but they're the people that aren't hurt by all of the economic fluctuations. So getting to those clients through your retailers and doing live, I don't know whether you do, doing live pop-ups and getting out and telling your story personally and being on the front lines.
How important do you believe it is for a brand to put the founder forward in this time?
Absolutely. Well, unless there is no person, but if you are the founder, I think, yeah, absolutely. I love meeting the designers and the founders, and it's just everything, if the brand is yours. Of course, there are many, many brands that don't rely on one. You had the Hijas de Puca yesterday. There were a whole series of people that were involved there. Then you have to just kind of highlight your community and who you are and what your relationship is to one another. And, there are a lot of mother-daughter situations going on here. I think the intimacy of how you tell the story is always, that's what separates you from everybody else that's out there.
We've talked a lot about where we are now. Where do you see the industry going in the next 5 years when it comes to the American market? I know many brands here are heavily invested in this market, and online versus in person.
Well, I think I've said that, but I do think that value is something that people will continue to look for, particularly not in the upper 5% of the marketplace. So seeing something that's obviously well thought out, well made, beautifully constructed, and that has the right price, I mean, that is number one right now, I think. Absolutely number one. I think that everyone, there's a lot of cautious consumers out there that are looking for a lot of bang for their buck. That's what it is. That's absolutely it. What was the other part of the question?
Where you see fashion
Gosh,
evolving.
I wish I had a crystal ball. Well, I definitely see a return to a more intimate shopping experience, whether it be online or in the specialty store sector. I think that with this consolidation of the major department stores, I actually, I'm not really a brand-driven shopper. I don't go in and say, oh, I'm shopping for Gucci, I'm shopping for Prada. I'm looking for discovery, probably because I have that perspective from inside the industry. Will isn't here, is he? I am not a fan of the major department store shopping experience. I know they bring the volume, but that volume comes with a lot of risks and a lot of risks because, you don't have a relationship, if you don't have a sell-through, forget it. One season, maybe two, you're out. And there goes your whole volume and everything that you've based your business on. So, unless, have a great relationship with your buyer, number one. Make sure you listen to them when they tell you and engage them so that they take ownership in your brand. Say, I'm launching, what advice do you have for me? That's kind of a little bit of an insurance policy when you go into the major department store realm. But I see a return to just storytelling and wanting to know and learn about new brands. Look at the CFDA. They, for the first time in so many years, they didn't give, like Calvin Klein and Marc Jacobs and Donna Karan, well, those people are barely around, prizes. They gave all of the awards to young emerging brands. I must tell you that I went into the stores and looked at those brands and I was like, gosh, I hope they can survive. You know, it's not easy. It's just not easy. You know, I'm talking about Diatima and Henry Zankoff and those brands. If you're interested in the North American market, I'm sure that you followed the CFDA and that whole process. But yeah, you have to practically, if you're in the major department store, you have to have really good people on the ground. Do not think that you can sell to the majors and drop your stuff into 20 doors and it's just going to magically happen. They treat it like you get in there. If you don't have a DSA, there's nobody taking care of your business. It's just hanging there. And actually, I was on the floor, but Saks is in kind of a difficult situation right now. But there were like no salespeople on the whole floor. I was there Friday. I mean, literally, you could not have tried something on if you wanted to. So is that the best way to, unless you're there and you have regional merchandisers and people on the ground in the 5 or 6 major regions of the US, or you have a lot of bells and whistles on your product and it's out there for the right price and it's going to jump out of all of the product and tap the consumer on and say, I'm the best, most fabulous, extraordinary thing you can get for the price, and that's really rare. So I think being in a specialty store or even being with the right online retailer that is going to dedicate content and to you. And then if you go with the major, go with like 3 or 4 doors and just keep circling back to those doors and make yourself known and secure windows and just make sure that the terms also work for you, not only for the retailer. You know, it's better to say no sometimes. I hate to say it because I know what it's like to really be desperate for an order. Believe me, I've made a lot of decisions that probably weren't the best decisions in my quest for volume and to keep the company afloat. You have to find that balance. It's not easy.
I hear a lot of times in my work with my clients, and you mentioned this briefly, we're down to the last 10 minutes, so we'll take some questions, but you've had many friends that have built brands over a lifetime and just the need for patience and how long it can take and that it really is a journey. And I think that many owners, because of the cost now of operating, are very anxious to get things quickly. Yeah. And well, if you don't, you have to have the time, and you have to understand. I mean, if your product is not selling immediately, you have to ask the questions and make the changes, because you can say it's somebody else's fault up to a certain point, but you have to be able to resonate and sell in a very crowded market. And that may mean making compromises that you may not have wanted to, but you have to listen to what's happening in the marketplace and be constantly evolving. And it may take a long time. And then, of course, you have good seasons and bad seasons. The best thing about this industry is that you always have the opportunity to reinvent for the next season and to learn from your mistakes and to get out there and to understand what wasn't working and to understand what partnerships aren't working and to make the changes and to start all over with the same vim and vigor and enthusiasm the next season. And and try to accomplish what you're looking for, which is that resonance with the final customer and those sell-throughs and selling product. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there with a lot of the big brands, and there's a lot of reliance, obviously, on the accessory and the shoe segment to really keep brands going. And if you're a ready-to-wear only brand, and I've thought about that a lot here, you've got your work cut out for you, because it's difficult. It's difficult. The shoe and the leather goods sectors happen to be a little bit easier to break into, maybe jewelry. I think we have to wrap it up. I'm a very long-winded talker. It's okay.
You can tell. I didn't even have to prepare. I'm just winging it.
We saved a little bit of time for questions. Oh, we have more time.
Okay.
Oh, great. We can talk longer.
No, let him ask questions. I think I'm more interested in trying to help anybody with anything I can possibly say.
Stacey, Michelle, this talk has been amazing for all of us, I'm sure. And I have a question for you. As a local designer that produces locally in Venezuela, but is expanding globally from Paris, what are the best strategies to balance the authenticity of our origin with an international image that appeals to buyers in markets like Europe and North America? What recommendations do you have for optimizing this duality so that production in Venezuela at the moment become an accent rather than obstacle in our brand narrative?
Well, I mean, I guess absolutely. I think that I'm not familiar with many Venezuelan brands, but I certainly think that if you have the opportunity to make great quality handcrafted things, I think you have to be very aware of the global market, though, before you plop yourself over to Paris. I mean, you don't want somebody to think that the product is too, I don't know what the word is to use. I don't want to use anything, but too ethnic, and to, you know, you have to know that your product is going to be able to sit with the adjacencies that are handled globally. You know, I seem to, you know, when I think of South American product, I think of it more summer leaning and more holiday leaning. You know, I did see some knitwear yesterday. I was very pleasantly surprised with some of the people there, but I think that, you know, as I said before, the quality of the craftsmanship and how you tell your story is going to resonate. You know, but you do need to keep in mind the global landscape and what your product represents when it's sitting next to, I don't know, Roland Mouret or Erdem if you're in evening, or you know, any of the other brands that are I was speaking of the evening segment, or if you're in the resort segment.
Well,
I'm
thank
not
you.
sure I answered your question. I'm so sorry.
Well, my style is timeless design and focus on giving to the woman pieces that are going to be forever.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I'm not doing that crafting as you said. Well, I mean, all my manufacturer is making in Venezuela with my team that are artists, and they are a perfect maker, and they have a lot of experience with a big designers from Venezuela from a long time ago. For me, this is yeah, I feel very lucky to have them working
Right.
with me.
Are you in the evening segment?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I see that as, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for modern, and I say modern, you know, just not to discount all the other types, but modern evening wear at a price. I mean, I know that because I've been trying to find good evening wear for some of my retail clients, and it's very, very difficult. I think timeless is great. You know, obviously South American designers that have really broken through have been in the very feminine arena and the very print arena. And I see that there's a desire by designers to move away also a little bit from that into the more sleek, modern, architectural. And I've seen that in the last couple of weeks, which is really interesting. I think we need to educate the general populace that South American designers can do that and will do that and are good at that. That is Estefania's job. Exactly.
Donata, did you have a question?
Oh, Donata's here. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Herself, Michelle is the biggest icon for emerging brands in North America.
Ah.
Every point of advice that you made was so spot on. You spoke about Paris being so important. How would you recommend designers approach it? What's your opinion on multi-brand showrooms versus trade shows versus doing their own pop-up experience, knowing that all of them are costly and that buyers don't have very much time to get to emerging brands? What do you think
Right.
is a good points of
Well, the
that?
benefit, obviously, of a multi-brand showroom, if you are in the, it all depends. There are multi-brand showrooms and there are multi-brand showrooms, is that you're guaranteed a certain amount of traffic. You need to make very sure, you need to be certain that the people involved in the showroom really understand you and that there's no real cannibalization within the offerings that they have in that showroom, so not like somebody who directly competes with you. I think that that's probably the least costly way to begin your journey. If you have your own showroom and you choose to take a hotel room, the costs are very high. Of course, I've been speaking to a lot of people about that. But you can't do it on your own, and you're certainly not going to have your salespeople, whether they be in Miami, Colombia, Venezuela, or Peru, on the phone trying to reach buyers. You'll need to have feet on the ground there and individuals who are specialists, agents, to bring, you can double it up and support their outreach, but you cannot go it on your own. So probably trade shows, well, if you've really got your ducks in a row and you really have your whole presentation really down and you jump out from the crowd, you can consider a trade show. What's the name of the trade show that's in the Tuileries for shoes and accessories? And what's it called? Oh, shit. Oh, God, I've just gone blank. Oh, come on, guys. Oh, no, in Paris, in the Tuileries, there's Première Classe. I mean, it depends on the trade show. There are smaller, more focused trade shows, and then there are group showing arenas. But I think you just, all in all, you've got a better opportunity to see the creme de la creme of the North American buyers, the European buyers, the Asian buyers, the middle. And even if it's just a stepping stone to your next association or your next journey, even if through that experience you realize, oh shit, it's all wrong, I need to start back at zero, I need to focus on my evening offering or my resort offering, or my price point is, everything will be a learning experience. But Donata, I think probably if you're looking at cost and effectivity, I think that probably a multi-brand showroom, but the right one where you are going to shine, is probably the best opportunity. Or within, the West End has all of those evening wear brands. I stayed there for many years. There's tacky and there's less tacky, basically there. But it depends. It depends on the type of product that you have. And listen, set your goals in a realistic manner. I think 15 clients is what you set out to look for. Good clients, the right clients that you can provide the service to and deliver properly. Don't go thinking you're going to have 150 clients. It's not going to happen, and you don't want that either. You want to build success upon success and learn along the way. Absolutely.
And getting your first order is only the beginning.
Yeah, that's the
I hear a
beginning
lot
of the
like,
process,
winning
because
the
it's got to
order.
sell.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't sell, you're back at the drawing board. That's just the way it is. But you have the next season. And, people look for consistency in offerings. They look for there to be a fil narratif, like we say in French. They're going to want to hear your name and know what it is you do. They don't want to be confused. Oh, yeah, what does she do again? That's what you want to avoid. You want to be strong in your approach and your knowledge of what you do well. Absolutely.
We have time for one more question. Yes?
Hi. From a retailer point of view, we want in and out. So we want brand. Okay. Now? Okay. So from a retailer point of view, we're never looking for instance, what are key items that you think a brand should have to appeal to retail?
Well, I think the brand structure is really important. I mean, we haven't been able to delve into everything here. But I think that, people like to see entry price offerings within a brand that could potentially be margin builders. They like to see value, which I was speaking to earlier. They need to, I think certainly if you're doing a sequin skirt, then why not have the perfect t-shirt that goes with it? Why not offer entry price along with your regular category? I think entry price is kind of the hook, and particularly if it's a margin builder. And if you do it really well, and the proportion is right, and the finishing is right, and the quality is right, all those things, I know it's a very high bar, but I think that structuring your brand where you define what it is you do, and 75% of that is focused in on, maybe you do tailoring. So you do fabulous. I didn't see a tremendous amount of tailoring within this segment of the population, so maybe I shouldn't use that as an example. So you do evening wear, but you have to understand that in the climate today of things, maybe not Miami, but in the rest of the world, people love evening separates, put them down and wear them during the day. So they love the opportunity of a white cotton shirt, so you do a poplin program along with your jacquards or your brocades or your sequins or your prints. So it's a question of the unexpected also, and the value and the differential in the price points within the structure of the collection. I know I'm saying a lot of stuff, but there we go. Just everything. You got to be everything. No, right before I said you don't have to be everything. You have to be focused. So I may be contradicting myself a little bit, but I do think that value right now to the client is everything, and that's really what has come through in this downturn in the general luxury goods sector. As you know, the major groups are suffering, the major e-commerce platforms are suffering. So people are looking for, and I think that what the South American designers can offer is that incredible value for the construction and the price in many cases. I haven't delved too much into the prices. I'm going to do that later today, but it's what I gleaned from it yesterday.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. That went by really quickly. I could have talked for another 5 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and best of luck, absolutely. And don't give up, just continue, nose to the grindstone. You'll make it work.
Thank you.
Please do not leave. Next session, we start shortly. Thank you.